preseason underway last night, and I would make the case that what you got a chance to see if you sat down to watch a little preseason football was the best and worst case scenarios about playing your starters. And so that's where we start today's program.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
Producer Evan, should we start best case and then go worst case? Or should we get the bad out of the way?
I think you always got to go worst case first.
Well, the worst case scenario, when you play your starters in preseason, is what happened to Anthony Richardson last night. Now, I think a lot of what happened to Anthony Richardson last night falls on Anthony Richardson for not picking up that protection, not seeing that he was hot and making a throw. But he did get absolutely demolished. He fractured his pinky. He had to leave the game with an injury. That is what you fear when you play your starters in a meaningless preseason game. That is what you are trying to avoid. And think about it in this context for just a second. The Colts have a quarterback battle on their hands. They don't know who their QB1 is going to be when they start the season in week 1. They brought in Daniel Jones. They have Anthony Richardson, who they drafted in the first round a couple years ago. They need every single one of these reps to make that decision. And just like that last night, Daniel Jones is in the game, and you don't even get a chance to evaluate Anthony Richardson. Now, it does look like it's just a dislocated, fractured pinky. It appears it's just a couple days off, and Anthony Richardson will be out there at practice. So it could have been much worse. But everybody in the moment seeing that play on social media, if you weren't watching the game on the NFL Network, you took a second and you thought, what if that was Kyler Murray? What if that was Marvin Harrison Jr.? What if that was Josh Sweat? Just name a player that goes down with an injury. You'd be thinking, why are they in there? Why are they playing these meaningless reps of football in a preseason game that doesn't matter? So that's the worst case scenario. That is the worst it can get in preseason. But the best is what Cincinnati and Joe Burrow and specifically the offense looked like. A couple touchdowns for Joe, having that connection with Jamar Chase, moving up and down the field free and easy. Their defense still a major concern. Would have been nice to maybe have an elite pass rusher out there. Just a thought. Maybe you go out and get an elite pass rusher to join the... Oh, wait, you just have one on your roster? He's just not playing because you can't agree on a contract? Everybody searches for an elite pass rusher. Everybody wants to find the next Micah Parsons, the next Max Crosby, the next TJ Watt. Everybody wants to have their own Trey Hendrickson on their team. You have one of those players on your team. 17 and a half sacks each of the last 2 years. Nowhere to be seen. Because you can't come to terms on a contract. And so, what does your defense look like last night? Tanner McKee carving you up. Tanner McKee looking like a Pro Bowler in preseason.
I mean, he looked great yesterday. He made a throw down the sideline. He looked great.
He looked awesome. He looked like a high-quality backup, one of the best backups in the NFL. That's the way he looked. So to put the defense to the side for just a second, offensively, your offense looked great. Joe Burrow looked great. Jamar Chase looked great. That's the best case scenario for the Cardinals this weekend in training camp is Kyler Murray, Drew Petzing. This offense goes out there for however long they play. 1 series, 2 series, a handful of series. And if they look that good, you're going to feel great. But every single time Kyler takes a drop back, you're going to be worried about what happened to Anthony Richardson happening to Kyler Murray. This is why preseason, most of the time, teams don't play their starters. This year, you're seeing a trend going the other direction. It feels like a very highly concerted effort by teams to try to not get off to a slow start. That they feel like sitting these players in preseason is doing more harm than good for the first, not even first week of the season, first couple of weeks of the season. you have that slow start. So best case, worst case scenario on display just in last night, just in a couple of hours of preseason football. You saw the best of what tomorrow could look like for the Cardinals when they take on the Chiefs, and you saw what the worst could look like for the Cardinals tomorrow when they take on the Chiefs.
Now, do I think that they'll be in a situation where Kyler doesn't pick up somebody that coming in hot and they get a free rush? No, I don't. But I understand it could go south. It could. But you have to see what you have at some point.
Am I worried that Kyler Murray isn't going to be able to pick up a basic protection and know where the free rusher is coming from and not get the ball out in enough time? No, I'm not worried about that specific play happening to Kyler Murray, but you can't help but watch that play last night and wonder and worry something like that could happen in the Cardinals game. Maybe not that specific play, but something happens to the interior offensive line. Somebody trips and falls. Now you've got a free rusher in Kyler's face. He takes a bad sack, rolls up on his knee, lands weird on his collarbone or his shoulder. All of that stuff is possible. So maybe it's not the one-to-one replica of what happened to Richardson last night. But you can't tell me that you didn't think about it when you saw that play on social media.
It's hard not to say crossed your mind.
First thought that crossed my mind.
Second thought, my first one was, are they rocking with Daniel Jones now?
Well, I mean, when we found out that it was not going to be a long-term injury for Richardson, I think we're back to the quarterback battle being on there in Indy. As much of a quarterback. I mean, it is a quarterback battle. It's just not a hot. I don't even know what words to use to describe it. Not a lot of potential in Anthony Richardson, but we're not. This isn't Brett Favre versus Aaron Rodgers in a preseason camp battle.
No.
I mean, this is Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. This is not your A-tier camp battle.
No. Listen, and to be honest, I was like, they should give Riley Leonard a look. Pretty clear why they're not giving Riley Leonard a look. He didn't look great last night.
Young kid, preseason, first couple snaps. We're not going to...
I understand.
We're not going to write his Wikipedia page or his career page down yet.
Not at all. Just saying, pretty clear why he's not in the conversation to this point.
No, and I think they spent a decent amount of money on Daniel Jones, so they do want to see that investment. They spent a lot of, in terms of draft capital, on Anthony Richardson. They invested a top pick in him, so they kind of want to see that through. And so that camp battle is one to keep an eye on, but that's the thing you fear. And Matthew mentions it over on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube live stream, saying picking up a protection or not, sports are sports, man. And I hate to boil it down to something that simple, but Matthew, you said it better than I could. Sports are sports. Weird things are going to happen. Weird plays are going to happen. Whether it's week 1 of the preseason, or it's week 16 of the regular season, or it's the Super Bowl. You step foot on that field, you go out on that diamond, you step on the court in basketball, you never know what's going to happen, right? I'll give you a perfect example. Tyrese Halliburton in the NBA Finals. He thought he was good. Thought the calf strain was fine. Thought he could gut it out. One play, ruptures his Achilles, losing a whole season.
Now that is the NBA Finals.
Yes, but sports are sports. It can happen anywhere. If it can happen in Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
No, I know that. I'm just saying, if something minor happens to Kyler, you don't think he's going to pull himself.
Of course. The point I'm making is that injuries can happen, and it doesn't matter what the backdrop is. Doesn't matter. Rashawn Slater ended his season yesterday. Got hurt in practice. Non-contact injury. Doesn't even have to be a game for somebody to get hurt. It's all about your risk tolerance. And putting these players in a game over the weekend is increasing your risk a little bit. You have to be okay with that. Because the flip side is you get excited about the way the offense looks, because in Cincinnati, they expect Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and that offense to look that good. If the Cardinals looked that good in a couple of series against the Kansas City Chiefs over the weekend, don't you think
ecstatic?
People would be pretty excited on Monday. So you are taking a bit of a risk, though, that you could have the flip side of that for the benefit of your offense getting into form very early on in the season, the first game of preseason. That's the risk, and that's the risk tolerance that you have to have. And more teams, at least this year, are willing to take on some more risk.
Because I think there's been more weight put into the beginning of the season. And do I think one series is going to be the difference? Probably not. But not playing at all and maybe getting action in 3 games or 2 games could be the difference of a first series.
It's all about rhythm, continuity, chemistry. That's what you're looking for. Now, the Cardinals, a lot of continuity. So you don't worry too much about needing to get that chemistry, right? Marv has been here for a year. Kyler's entering year 7. Everybody understands this offense. You didn't change coordinators. You're not changing schemes. Everything's the same. So they don't have as much of a need to have that chemistry built up in preseason, but you want them to get out there because you want them to use these 3 games, even in a limited sample size, to shake off that rust. And as long as you're okay with running the risk of what happened to Anthony Richardson last night, then yeah, play them. And there's more value to playing them than there is to sitting them. I would agree with that. But there is more risk that comes with it. There is more. Kyler Murray sitting on the sidelines, not with his jersey on, just wearing a helmet. What happened to Anthony Richardson can't happen to Kyler Murray if he's sitting on the sidelines.
I understand that.
So he steps on the field, there's always a chance.
Kyler Murray's too experienced to take a shot like that.
That specific play won't happen to Kyler. I think that's more on Anthony not understanding the protection, which is a very scary thing for if you're a Colts fan. He's got it. I mean, that's basic. That is a basic. We're empty. I know Anthony called the play in the huddle. He knows where the back's going. He knows he's empty. He knows the back is shooting out of the backfield. He knows. I've got it. It's a math game. Do I have 5 on 5? And if I have a free rusher, you have to identify that free rusher and you have to know where you're going if that player is coming. Because just because a guy lines up in a spot and you think he's the extra rusher doesn't mean that he's coming. He can drop. So you have to identify and know. And this is where the processing speed is important. You got to know, if this guy's coming, what am I doing with the ball? And by the way, it's preseason, Anthony. Throw it in the dirt. He never even checked it. He never looked that way. He was laser focused on his first read. He never even, to me, that tells me he didn't even recognize that he was hot.
I will tell you, the Ravens, I'm tired of them taking preseason as serious as they do.
They win every preseason game.
It's all right. This whole gimmick thing it's getting old.
I know, but Lamar didn't even play. And they still win. By the way, speaking of the Ravens in preseason, did you see Keaton Mitchell last night?
I did not. No.
Running back for the Ravens? Coming back from the injury?
I didn't see him.
Woo! He looked good.
Did he?
He looked really good. You have Derrick Henry, who runs people over. And
Keaton Mitchell, who can fly.
And you have Mitchell, who other defenders can't catch.
Yeah.
So you're either going to get run over or Mitchell's just going to run by you. So have fun trying to stop the Ravens' rushing attack. And oh, by the way.
I was going to say, and they have Lamar Jackson.
They have Lamar Jackson. So, yeah, again, preseason, but you can tell already, football being back, we're breaking down things from preseason games.
You have to.
Of course.
It's our job.
That was last night in 2 games, the best and worst case scenario for the Cardinals over the weekend. And clearly the Cardinals have talked about it, and they've decided they're okay with the risk that they are running.